We're going to make a watercolour looking across the meadows to the Rocky Mountains in Colorado today. Here's one version I did. Here's another one. We're looking at a structure in the composition of background, middle ground, foreground. So you can see the paper's roughly divided up into those four sections. To make the snow line, you can use masking fluid, something like this, or wax crayon, which gives a nice texture. Or if you have none of those, you can paint it in watercolour and put some acrylic on afterwards to show the snow. I'm going to work with masking fluid, and so the first thing I'm going to do is just put the outline of the top of my mountains in, just about a quarter of a way down the page, just a really rough skyline. And then I'm going to put some snow on, one side of the mountain so that it looks as if, that's where the shadow lies. So I'm going to put them on this side, and to sort of show the rocky faces, I'm going to take it this way, just scribble it on. Don't be too precious. Maybe put a few, I don't know, ski runs. Okay, I think that will look good. And we'll wait for that to dry. So just looking at the composition, we're going to put a very pale wash in the bottom quarter because our flowers are going to go in front, and then maybe something like a middle ground of some trees or forests leading up to the foothills of the mountains. So while this is drying, let's start with the foreground. So I've got some clean water. I'm just going to mix a pale lemon yellow with some blue, and I have taped my paper down. Because this is a painting that's going right up to the edges, it does make a really good effect to have a frame around it. So I'm going to take my water, which should have a little bit of green in it, just across the bottom section here. And I am going to keep it quite pale. Put some green on one side, some more lemon on the other. And I've put my paper on mine's just on a clipboard, but on a little board that's easy to move so that you can get the nice natural wet on wet effect of moving your board to get the paint to run through the water, because it will only go where there's water. So I can see some spaces here that are dry, so I'll just cover those in. And I'm going to make one side a little bluer than the other. And if your paint doesn't move, just give it a hand with a drop of water. There it goes. Just let it wander across the page. You don't need to take too much time on this because we are going to paint over the top and you want to keep it reasonably pale. But it's also nice to introduce a little bit of interest. So, you know, you might want to put a little bit of pink or purple here in the background. Okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm now going to put in the middle ground, which could be like a woodland or forest or whatever. So I'm going to mix some darker colours in here, some less bright colours. So again, I'm going to add some clear water. I don't mind if I get bleed off this green. There's a little bit there floating upwards. I'm going to drop a little bit of pink and purple in. It's quite light. And some green, which I've made from the same lemon yellow and blue as is underneath, but with more blue. I want this line to be quite curved. That's better. This is just a background because we are going to paint over the top of this. I'm adding a bit more blue and purple, but you can add your own colours. We're just looking for a kind of mid-tone to go between the nice brightness of the mountains and the brightness of the foreground. And I've gone a little bit low here, so I'm just going to take it a little bit higher, I think. It's better. A little bit more green. And even, let's do a little bit of pink. I've just added more water here. And then letting it all run around. Okay. Now I want this to kind of merge into my mountain tops. So I'm going to take, you can do this in either blue or purple. I've done mine in purple. You take some really watery purple. How clean is my purple? Okay. And I'm just going to literally paint over everywhere. And I'm touching the bottom of those trees so that it starts to just bleed a bit, not too much, so I'm going to hold it so that it's not going too much into the purple. But just so that the line is soft, so we've done it while it's still wet, so it's soft. And then I'm going to take a tiny little bit of blue. Hope this isn't too strong. I'm going to put it here and maybe here. Make sure you've painted right up to the top of your masking fluid, because what we want is a bit of contrast between the white of the paper where the masking fluid is and the mountain slopes. You want to be able to see where you've put that masking fluid. It's lovely and soft. This has gone quite light, so I'm going to go back in with a little bit of blue and purple. Going while the paint is wet. A little bit of green here. And I'm only moving the board in the direction I want the paint to travel, so I do not want it going up into my mountains. Okay, now we'll put in our blue sky. So again, we're going to go clear water. And we're going to make sure that our water goes to the top of our masking fluid or wax candle. And we're going to drop some nice bright blue in. I'm going to let that do its work. See, I haven't got quite close enough there, so I'm just going back in. So I'm looking at that shade of blue and thinking, is it bright enough? Is it saying mountain skies? And sometimes you do see this, I think this cauliflowering here, which I don't really want. So I'm going to take a tissue and make it into a cloud. And I still want my sky a bit darker, I think. It's a bit brighter blue, so. And I'm going to just take my tissue and soften these cloud lines up. Let's here, so just dab on, don't rub, just dab, and you get some nice cloud effects. It's quite a heavy tooth on my paper, so you can see quite a lot of the texture coming through when I've used so much water, which has its fors and against. Okay, so now we're returning to our foreground because this is dry. You can wait for your whole painting to dry before attempting this, but we don't need to, I don't think. I'm going to start off with some nice big bold pink flowers in the foreground here. Just some plain 4-petaled flowers, because they're easy to do. I'm going to go now for perhaps something more like a field of flowers, so I'll do some little thistly type things here. Put some centres in. I'm going to leave that now because I want to put some grasses in. So I'm going to use my purple and blue with some yellow. And I'm just going to do some verticals very, very fast with the fine end of my brush. And then one or two that just have a little tick on the end sometimes looks quite nice. Not all over, but just in places, that'll do. And then I want to go a little bit darker with one or two. Okay. And then maybe a little bit brighter. So all kind of different shades here. Just coming off your masking tape at the bottom. And the drier the brush, the more interesting it becomes in terms of your shape and texture. You might want to put these red flowers on a branch. You don't have to, but you might want to. So we could do something like maybe we ought to have a few more. They all look the same colour at the moment, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue to those at the back. They're not quite all the same. Okay, now I'm going to introduce something that probably wasn't so much in the demonstration painting, but I think it's something nice to try. So we're going to get our brush as dry as we can. And we're going to get some purple, very, very dry brush. We're going to put some, I'm going to use the length of my brush just to try and Still a little bit wet. I'm going to work my way along. You can see the paint is a bit wet underneath, and as I get further along you can see I'm getting this nice texture, which is what I'm after really. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the green, really dry brush. We need to keep going at it because it's the middle ground, so we wouldn't really be able to see a lot of individual trees. We'd just be able to see the shadow of them really. Okay, that's fine. And it gives a bit of more nice darkness before it comes to your mountains. I might even go darker again, just maybe with a few over this side. Sort of trying to show where the sunlight is maybe casting in the different dips and valleys of the ground. Okay, something at the end there maybe. Good. Now I've got this cabbage watermark across mine, and I'm not bothered about it. It would have been perhaps nicer if I'd been able to keep it soft. So I'm going to do something else to distract from it a little bit if I need to. I'm going to put a fence in, so don't panic. I'm going to use a bit of purple, a bit of blue and a bit of pink. So I've got a very dark colour, very fine brush, and it's not a very big fence because it's quite far away. So I'm going to put in and that's very dark, so I'm going to take my tissue while it's still wet and just take the colour off a little bit. That's it. And then I'm going to I've got a very fine pen. I'm just going to take a pencil Unfortunately, these fence posts need a little bit of shadow. As I say, the fence is optional according to your composition. If you've got a nice graduation, you might not need it. You might think that's not a good thing or is a good thing. Let's put a few more grasses in. Now I think I'd like some more colour in that foreground. So I'm going to take some of the lemon yellow and just sort of make up some plants. So I don't know what that is. But that'll do. Maybe something that gives a bit of interest. Actually, that is really bright, so I think I'm going to bring that down as a peachy colour. Okay. I can't take the masking fluid off until the sky is dry, but I think we're nearly there. We've got a kind of nice mist coming up through the woods. So there's our finished picture. I hope you enjoyed painting. So I hope you enjoyed painting along with me the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. And I'd love to see the results on Penny's paintings. Thank you very much.